Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Cardone Solutions Podcast. I'm your host of the Cardone Solutions Podcast. My name is David Bradley, training facilitator and coach with Grant Cardone. I'm bringing you weekly sales solutions, sales tips, sales strategies, and a couple attitude adjustments from the 10X world of Grant Cardone. Now, today is Wednesday. That means what? It means it's time for the Wednesday word. So what I do on Wednesday, I got this nice long list of success-themed and success-orientated words, and I'm going to pull one of these words out. I'm going to go into the dictionary. I'm going to find the definition, the etymology, the history of that word, and then we're going to look at some things that we can do with that word to plug it into your sales, your business, and your life. What can we learn from these words? First lesson I learned from Uncle G when I first started selling in the auto industry back in 2003, selling is a conversation. Power comes from the words that you use. So let's make sure that the words that we're using have power, and that we're flowing power out and into our lives by what? The words we're using. So let's get into today's word, because it is going to be a doozy. Today's word, this is one of these words that brings to mind the wisdom of Spider-Man's Uncle Ben. Okay, remember the first Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire? What did Uncle Ben say? With great power comes great responsibility. And so it goes with today's word. If you wield the power of today's word, you must do it with great responsibility and ethics. Today's word is influence. Yeah, influence, okay? Influence is a noun and it's a verb. It's something that happens, but it's also something that you do. So let's get into the definitions. 3 definitions of the noun for influence. It is the capacity to have an effect on the character, development, or behavior of someone or something, or the effect itself. The influence of television violence, the influence of social media, the influence of Facebook's algorithms. Influence. Remember, great power, great responsibility. Okay, next definition. The power to shape policy or ensure favorable treatment for someone, especially through status, contacts, or wealth. The Institute had considerable influence with teachers. Social media could have a considerable influence on election results, per se. Third definition. A person or thing with the capacity or power to have an effect on someone or something. Frank was a good influence on her. I'm just going to go with Sinatra, so maybe not. Okay. Frank who? I'm not sure what Frank did to wind up in the dictionary as the example and who her was, but etymology. No, verb. The verb definition. To have an influence on, meaning to affect or effect, to determine, to guide. Okay? So again, great power, great responsibility. Okay? Yeah, I'm getting a little political. Yeah, I've got some commentary. Yeah, there's some subtext to this discussion. Etymology of influence. This is where it gets really interesting. Okay? It used to be, back in the day, influence was, in the 14th century, an astrological term. If you think about astrology, right? Like, what's your sign? Like astrology. And the term meant this: streaming ethereal power from the stars when in certain positions, acting upon character or destiny of men. Damn. Okay? So if you go back, there's an old French term, also spelled the same, probably pronounced a little different, influence, meaning from the stars that acts upon one's character or destiny. Emanation from the stars that acts on one's character or destiny. So then you go back a little bit further now. That was 14th century. Okay, go back 100 years back. Just 100 years. And it also starts to mean a flow of water or a flowing in. That now we're talking some medieval Latin, influentia, a flowing in. That was also used astrologically back then as well, okay? But if you go back to early Latin, it meant to flow into, stream in, pour in. Okay? Fluer, meaning to flow, fluer, like fluent. If you're fluent in French or Spanish or Latin or Italian, meaning you can flow through that language. Interesting, right? Okay, so as time goes on, the range of that, the astrological thing starts going away, and it just sort of sticks on one's ability or the ability to have influence or produce an effect of somebody else. Like alcohol, right? Too much of that, and you are under the what? Influence. You're in the flow. How dry I am. Okay? You're under the influence. Ossifer, I'm not as stinky drunk I am. Okay? Under the influence. Then we gravitate towards having the capacity to produce an effect on somebody else. Okay? Interesting, right? So, what do we do with that? Okay, so again, Wednesday word, sales, business, life. What do we do with the word influence? Here's the question. How do you deliver, how do you function with ethical influence? I was making some jabs at social media earlier and algorithms and things like that. So that's the question. How do you function with ethical influence? Well, okay, let's define ethical influence, shall we? Okay, here's my 2 cents on that, okay? In short, ethical influence would be you. We're going to bring this back to you now. Your sales, your business, your life. Ethical influence would be you helping someone make the right decision. And the right decision would be an individual taking action on the thing that does the most amount of good for the most amount of people. Well, that makes sense. Okay, so now what is the best way for you to get or have ethical influence? The best way, the main way, the number one way, the most effective, efficient way for you to have ethical influence is, drumroll, you earn it. Okay? So for us in sales, that means that you show up with an attitude of service, that you look for problems to solve because problems are opportunities, you overpromise and you overdeliver. You give without the expectation of reciprocation. You give because it's the right thing to do. Giving solely to get and expecting something in return, well, that would be manipulative, wouldn't it? You go the extra mile and you do what the competition refuses to do, and that makes you rare, that makes you exclusive in the marketplace, and that makes you more valuable. Consequently, you become an expert in the space. You know your stuff. You know your product. You're the authority. You're the go-to person, and people will seek you out because of this. You are reliable, consistent. You do not go back on your word. You take 100% responsibility for all outcomes, good and bad, and that, my friends, is how you get influence. You earn it. And this has been your Wednesday Word, and I'm your host of the Wednesday Word. My name is David Bradley, training facilitator and coach with Grant Cardone. Thank you so much for listening to the Wednesday Word. Appreciate you being here. Remember, last week, the week before we did influence, we did responsibility, okay? So when you take 100% full responsibility for you, where you're at, what you're going to do, and you implement everything I just dropped on you, you know what's going to happen to your sphere of influence? It's going to grow and grow and grow and grow, and it's going to grow mighty, mighty big. So thank you so much for listening. Have an awesome rest of your week. Throw me some feedback on this particular episode of the Wednesday Word. I'd love to get your 2 cents on it, and be great. That's right, because nothing else pays. See you soon.